Hey there, MYP educators. If you've ever felt like unit planning is more about just checking boxes than actually sparking some creativity, well, you're in the right place. Today, we're going to dive deep into the upcoming MYP enhancements. These are all about shifting the focus from compliance to creation. We're going to break down what's changing, why it's changing, and most importantly, how you can get involved and help shape what's next. So let's get into it. So let's just start with a question that I think is going to hit home for a lot of you. When you sit down with that unit planner, does it feel like a creative launchpad for amazing ideas or more like a compliance checklist? That exact feeling is what these new enhancements are setting out to change.
And guess what? You're not alone in feeling this way. The IB's own research confirmed what so many teachers have been saying for a while. Trying to connect all the different pieces of the MYP framework can be really tough. And way too often, those unit planners we spend so much time on end up as these static, one-and-done documents instead of the living, breathing guides they're supposed to be.
And that brings us to the most important shift in thinking with these new enhancements. It's about moving our focus away from the unit planner as a final product and towards unit planning as a dynamic, ongoing process. Think of it less like a rigid blueprint and more like a living draft that grows and evolves. The whole goal is to get us past just compliance and to truly empower you, the teacher, as a curriculum designer.
This entire change is really driven by a pretty simple purpose. And this quote says it all: making the MYP easier for educators, more flexible for schools, and better for learners. It's all about giving schools more autonomy and trusting your professional judgment as an educator. All right, so here's our game plan. We'll start with the why behind all these changes. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the 4 key enhancements: concepts, global contexts, approaches to learning, and the brand new community engagement piece. And then we'll wrap up by showing you how you can actually join the beta trial. First up, why bother enhancing the MYP in the first place? Well, the short answer is it's a big move away from rigid, sometimes restrictive requirements and towards more flexible guidance that really trusts you to make the right calls for your students. Now, for the first major enhancement we're going to talk about, concepts and conceptual teaching. Let's dig into how this is being tweaked to really pave the way for deeper, more meaningful learning. Okay, I know there's a lot going on here, but the key thing to take away is this shift away from a super prescribed structure to one that gives schools a lot more flexibility. You'll notice there's a new emphasis on repeated exposure to concepts, which is all about strengthening student understanding over the long haul. Let's break this down a bit. Right now, you've got your key and related concepts. The new approach gives you a specified list for your subject, but without a mandatory number you have to hit. But here's the biggest change. That formal statement of inquiry is being replaced with more flexible inquiry questions or statements. This gives you way more freedom to frame the purpose of your unit in a way that feels authentic. Next up, let's take a look at how global contexts are evolving. The enhancement here introduces a really powerful new tool that's designed to help students go deeper and broader with their inquiries. So the core global contexts that we all know, they're staying. But the big addition is this idea of 3 lenses. This is a new layer that's meant to help students explore a context from different angles, from the individual to the local to the global, all to build a much richer sense of international mindedness. So what does this actually look like in practice? The game changer is the addition of those 3 contextual lenses: individual, local, and global. These really push students to connect the global context to their own lives, to their immediate community, and then to the wider world. Oh, and also pay attention to that subtle but really important language shift. Summative assessments must be linked is changing to it is recommended they are linked. More flexibility. All right, let's talk about approaches to learning, or ATL. Now, this is an area where the research showed there was a lot of confusion. So these enhancements are all about bringing in some much-needed clarity and really encouraging a more collaborative way of teaching these critical skills. The goal here is pretty simple: simplification. The 5 main ATL skill categories are still there, but that kind of complex web of clusters and subskills is being seriously streamlined. This is going to give schools a lot more freedom to work together on teaching these skills in a way that just makes sense for your students and your community. So the bottom line here is streamlining. Those 10 clusters, they're gone, which gives your school way more flexibility in how you organize things. And that massive list of over 140 example skills, that's being replaced with a much shorter, more adaptable list. Plus, you won't have to use that rigid, explicit, and implicit terminology anymore.
The focus is now on just documenting the practical strategies you're using.
Okay, our final area of enhancement is a really big one. Services action is evolving into a much more integrated and holistic idea called community engagement.
At its heart, this change is about moving away from the idea of providing a service to the community and moving towards forming partnerships with the community. The new focus is all about students and community members working side by side to identify and tackle real-world challenges together.
This is a really fundamental shift in philosophy. Instead of 7 learning outcomes, we're moving to 4, much clearer learning objectives that actually align better across all the IB programs. The real emphasis now is on partnership, one that's built through real dialogue, relationship building, and deep reflection. It's all about moving from doing for the community to working with the community.
So now that you've got a clearer picture of what's changing, we get to the most exciting part. You don't just have to sit back and wait for this to happen. Let's talk about how your school can actually join the beta trial and help shape the future of the MYP. And you know what? Getting involved is designed to be incredibly flexible. It's a simple 3-step process. First, just go online and explore the beta guidance. Second, you decide the scale that works for you. It can be your whole school, just one department, or even just you as an individual teacher. Finally, your MYP coordinator just needs to register you, and you can get started right away. So, why should you bother? What's in it for you? Well, getting involved now lets you play with these changes and make sure your school has a super smooth transition in 2027. But honestly, more importantly, your feedback is going to directly influence the final guidance. This is your chance to make sure the enhanced MYP really works for you and for your students. So you've got some time. The beta trial is going to run for at least 18 months. All the feedback that gets collected during this period is going to lead up to the full release of the enhanced MYP, which is slated for 2027. When you boil it all down, these enhancements are really about one thing: recognizing and empowering you as a professional. It's about moving past simple compliance and giving you the tools and the flexibility to be the creative, impactful curriculum designer that you already are. So the only question left is, are you ready to embrace it?